converted a personal problem into something which is helping thousands of people.
When I started Remote Rocketship, I had zero knowledge.
Right now, you have around 500k monthly clicks from Google only.
Sure, happy to share all my secrets.
How do you structure your job page so that Google gives it more priority compared to your competitor?
Google is telling you what it wants, do what it wants.
Hey folks, welcome to the third episode of JobBoard Spotlight. In this episode, we have Lior with us, who is founder of Remote Rocketship and JobBoard SEO Guide. He has scaled his job board to 500k plus traffic from search engine. And he is going to help us understand how he did it from scratch. So in this episode, you are going to learn how to optimize your job board for Google search engine AI overview. Let's dive in. Hi Lior, welcome to this episode.
Hey Funky, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
It's absolute pleasure. Let's jump right in. So from what I know, Lior, you started your career with Meta. You were a software engineer over there. You left that to build Remote Rocketship. So can you walk us through that whole journey?
Yeah, I was a software engineer at Meta for close to 5 years. And then after some time, I just felt myself getting a bit bored and I really wanted to build my own startup or my own business. So I decided to leave Meta. And then I spent about a year just like trying to build different startups, exploring different ideas, and nothing quite caught on. And then what happened was my wife was looking for a job, and actually she just kept on complaining that she wasn't finding enough jobs, or like she had to look in so many different places, and she couldn't find enough high quality jobs. And then even when she applied to jobs, she had to apply after like hundreds of people. So she wasn't having a good time. So I decided to look into this problem a bit more. And then what I noticed was that actually, most job boards, they charge companies to post their jobs. And so actually you do miss out on a lot of jobs. So what I thought would be a better idea was to actually just build something which, scrapes company websites directly. And then as soon as it finds that there's a new job opening, put it onto a website. And so this is the story of how Remote Rocketship was born. And this was about 3 years ago now.
Great. And so I want to know, why did you specifically choose remote jobs compared to all the jobs?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think I was just personally more interested in remote jobs, and my wife was looking for a remote job. Remote jobs tend to be more competitive because more people want them. You can apply for more places. There's a bigger pool of candidates. And I suppose maybe it was just after COVID. So I think remote and future of work sort of topics were still quite hot. I think nowadays it's calmed down a bit, but that just felt like the direction everything was heading. So I wanted to focus on remote jobs.
Awesome. So you converted a personal problem of your wife into something right now which is helping thousands of people, which is finding a remote job in this highly competitive market, right? So
Exactly.
I read about you. I watched you in a couple of other podcasts, etc. And you mentioned that you have grown your job board through SEO specifically, and right now you have around 500k monthly clicks from Google only, and you are ranking higher than some of the largest player, right? So in this whole episode, we are primarily going to talk about that. So in the first 1 to 2 years, how did you grew from 0 to maybe your first 100k traffic, and then from 100k to 500k traffic?
Yeah, sure. Happy to share all my secrets, and maybe others can reproduce this. But actually, I'll probably start by saying that when I first started Remote Rocketship, I had zero knowledge of SEO. And what actually inspired me to start was a tweet by Phil from 4-Day Week, which I think you had on your show previously.
Yeah.
And he basically just outlined here's the basics of how you do SEO. I'll share this tweet with you afterwards as well, so everyone can look. But I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this seems pretty simple. I think I could do this to grow the job board. And that sort of got me the first few clicks. I think eventually at some point I discovered the job board schema that Google asked for. Which for people who don't know, basically if you have a web page that contains a job posting, you put in the metadata, you basically put the job posting schema, and then you can make a request through an API to Google to index this page. And so what this allows you to do is basically you can index, hundreds or thousands of pages much, much more quickly. This also lets you show up in Google Jobs widgets. So this really helps you drive a lot of traffic. And for anyone who hasn't implemented this yet, I think this is the foundation of any job board. This is the first thing you should be doing.
So let's deep dive into Google job schema specifically, right? And then we'll dive into indexing API. Let's say if there is a job board who already have implemented Google schema and yet they are not being crawled or indexed by Google. According to your experience, what are a couple of nuances the job board owner should try?
I think what you need to do here is really just put yourself in the shoes of Google and ask yourself, what is Google trying to achieve here? And what they're trying to achieve is they want to show people high quality jobs, right? So and then you gotta ask yourself, what does a high quality job mean? Firstly, it's relatively fresh, right? Nobody wants to find a job that's posted 6 months ago. Okay, so that means you should post jobs as soon as you can, right? So try to be the first one to post it. The next being high quality is just meaning that you have complete information in their documentation for the job posting schema. They've outlined all the fields you can have, and they outlined what are the requirements for each field and what are the formats they're expecting it. Now, the biggest mistakes that I see people do here is one. They, because some fields are optional, they don't put them in. And this is your first mistake. I think you need to give as much information as possible as you can and make this data as complete as possible, because that's a good signal for Google to know that this is high quality and it gives you more chances to rank for different keywords. And then the second mistake I see people here do here is they just do it in a different format. They don't adhere to the guidelines specifically. And so what I recommend is really Google is telling you what it wants, do what it wants. Don't do anything else. Don't try, a lot of people sometimes try to sneak around and, they, maybe they're trying to add different fields or, not show different fields because they think Google will show them more. No, Google is telling you what it wants. Just do what it wants.
Let's dive a bit further. You mentioned that initially when you started, you scrapped the jobs from different websites, right? Or the company websites or the job board tools, etc., ATS tools, etc. Does that affect the traffic in SEO? If you have scrapped and put the job in your website, does Google penalize you for doing that?
No, I don't think so. Not in my experience, at least, right? So one of the fields in the job posting schema is, do people have to apply on a different site than your site? I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but it's something basically if people have to click apply and they apply directly on a different site, not on your site. And you have to say, basically whether this is true or false. And in my case, this is true. They have to apply on a different website, not on my website. And it hasn't affected my, my rankings at all. As I mentioned, I'm getting about, as you mentioned, sorry, I'm getting about 500,000 visitors from SEO every month. So Google expects job boards, for people to apply somewhere else and job boards just to promote the job. So that's fine.
Understood. Okay. Now let's jump into indexing APIs, right? So I think before 2 years, Google used to give there was no quota for indexing APIs, but today there is you have to apply for a quota in Google indexing APIs. So how do you, let's say if I have 100K jobs, but my indexing API quota is 20,000, how do I increase that quota? Is there any way you can bypass that?
I mean, I'll take a step back here. I mean, the problem you're trying to solve here is you want Google to index as many of your jobs as possible, right? Yeah, you send a request through the API and ask Google to index your job, and you do this for every one of your jobs. And you should definitely do this. This is very important. But as you mentioned, there is a quota. I think the quota starts off at I think 200 requests a day, and you can request an increase. For context, I think I'm on 10,000 a day. I've managed to ask Google to increase it several times, but I don't think the specific number is that important. Yes, you should get an increase, and they will take some time to increase it, but there are other things you can do. I think the most important one is that you basically set up your internal linking on your site so that when somebody goes to visit your job, you have links to other jobs on your website. So if you look at my website, if you click on any job, I will show you underneath the job related jobs. And I think in my case, I show about 5 related jobs. Now, the idea here is like, one, it's helpful for the job seeker to see that you have more related jobs. It keeps you on the website, which is, good for your website. But the other part is it's for Google as well, because if I send Google a request, and Google is now crawling my web page, the chances are it's also going to crawl other links that it's seeing on the page. So if I have more jobs on this page as well, and links to these jobs on this page, then Google's going to crawl those jobs as well, and then going to index more of those jobs. So, yes, I have 100,000 jobs. I don't have enough requests every day to ask Google to index them. But hopefully when it's crawling all my other pages, it's finding links to the other jobs and crawling those as well to some extent.
So that brings in to my next question itself.
Hmm.
How do you structure your job page or job detail page so that Google gives it more priority compared to your competitor?
I think if you, instead of like to prioritize your competitor, I think it was the stuff I said previously where you just got to make sure you have a high quality job. And in terms of structuring the page, it's, just having the information there in a nice, clear way, having lots of relevant information. So like where possible, details on who the company is, what the company is doing, links to the company page, the company LinkedIn page, and just like any other information that somebody would find useful. A good tip for this is actually just go and look at your competitors, see who's ranking above you, and just go to Google Jobs, open 10 different websites from 10 different jobs, and see what information and what links each one of these jobs have on this page. And together you can build an idea of like what things you should include on your page. And so you may find like one website includes certain information, another one includes a different kind of information, and then you realize, oh, for your web page, if I want to make it better, it should contain everything. So that's the one thing I will say. The other thing I'll say is you should also make sure you just have a lot of good internal linking, as I mentioned earlier. So links to other jobs, links to different landing pages, things that you target with different keywords. So like if you have a job posting for like a plumber job, right, for a specific plumber job, then, make sure there's a link there to take somebody to look at like a full list of plumber jobs. And again, this helps with Google indexing and just the general user experience.
Now, moving on to the next part, which is a landing page, which you just mentioned, right? Can you tell our viewer what landing page is in context of SEO and how it helps in growing the traffic in the job board?
Yeah, for sure. So a landing page is basically, it's a different page from your home page. And what you're trying to do with this is you're just trying to target different keywords in Google. In my example, right, so I have my homepage, which says Remote Rocketship, find your dream remote job. But now if I think to myself what somebody's typing into Google, they might be typing remote software engineer jobs, or they would be typing remote data analyst jobs, or remote product manager jobs, right? And, there are like thousands of different queries somebody would be searching for. So a landing page is a page that I create specifically to target that keyword. So for example, if somebody's typing in remote data analyst jobs, I have a page specifically on my website dedicated to data analyst jobs. And so the headline says remote data analyst jobs. It says, search 5,000 remote data analyst jobs from remote from home companies. And I actually have a whole bunch of information on data analyst jobs in addition to having data analyst jobs on this page. And so the idea is that Google will see that this page is highly related to the user's search intent of like remote data analyst jobs. This page is related to remote data analyst jobs. This is a good page and it will show me in rankings. And then again, you repeat this for you can repeat this for thousands of pages.
So what is the good way to identify these pages? Like if let's say I want to create thousands of such pages, do I have to do it manually, or can I automate that?
You can definitely automate it. I automate it. But that shouldn't discourage you if you're not technical and are scared of automating it. I mean, you can certainly do them manually. And I would recommend you do if you're not going to automate it. So don't let this discourage you. But yeah, in my case, I think on my website, you can choose from 300 different types of jobs, 300 different types of remote jobs. So each one of those jobs has a different landing page. I have then, I support, I think, like 100 plus countries. So each country has its own landing page, different types of contract types, so full-time, part-time, internships. I have different landing pages for this. And then I'll also start to combine these terms. So somebody in India may be searching remote data analyst jobs in India. And so I have a page that combines country and the job title. And so what I would do, advice for people who are building their own job boards, what I would do is like think to yourself, like, okay, who's my target audience and what are they likely going to be searching for in Google? And this will change depending on, if you're like an education job board or a plumber job board or, a tech job board. Depends on like and where you are and like which market you're in. But this will determine like what keywords you're targeting. So let's say somebody has a job board for education jobs in India, right? And so people probably search for, the different types of education titles. So like teachers, tutors, headmasters. I don't know. I don't know anything about education jobs. So I'm just using as an example. And so somebody's probably looking for that. And then they're probably also looking for that in certain cities or certain districts. So I don't know, like, teacher jobs in Bangalore or something. And so, you want to have pages that targets each of these, and you can really get quite creative with which ones you want to target. The only caveat or anything I would say to be careful here is like, don't make hundreds of thousands of pages that are targeting, keywords which have like either like no search volume or like very low. So don't try to spam it basically.
Understood. So, then I think the flow should be that first you identify which keyword have search volume, maybe through Google Ad Planner or
Yeah.
keyword research tool, and then based on those keywords, you start creating your landing pages, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say you don't always necessarily have to research the keyword volume because you might just know intuitively that there is volume for it. So, for example, I know that people look for remote data analyst jobs and remote software engineer jobs and remote product manager jobs. Like, I don't need to go and check that there is actually volume because I know these are sort of like well-defined jobs in industry and remote is well-defined. So I don't have to look that. But for like more niche ones, I would double check. So for example, like somebody's an account executive, right? Do people search for account executive internships? I'm not sure. That's something like that I would check. But maybe like a software engineer internship, like, yeah, like I'm pretty certain that there's volume for this. I don't need to double check this. Yeah, but also the more terms you combine, the less volume it's going to have. So obviously, like, teacher jobs will have high volume, but teacher jobs in Bangalore will have less volumes. But part-time teacher jobs in Koramangala in Bangalore is going to have like much less search volume, right?
Right. So, how do you structure all these search intent based landing pages? And how do you internal link this so that Google doesn't mark this as a duplicate content?
So to make sure it's not marked as duplicate, you do have to make sure that each of these pages is unique and has unique content on it. So that's the first thing I will say in terms of like structuring the linking. Personally, I just put like, I have one page which has links to all these pages, or like have maybe like 5-10 pages which has links to all these pages. And then I put links to those 5-10 pages in my footer. That's like the one way I do for Google. And then the other thing is then I have lots of internal linking around the site. So, as I mentioned, so if somebody's looking at the data analyst jobs on my website, on that job page, there is a link to like search more data analyst jobs. That's a button for somebody to press that has a link to the data analyst jobs page. So that's how I build the internal linking. And again, this is something I would say, just go look at what your competitors are doing. Go look at what everyone else is doing. Go look what I'm doing. Like, you don't even have to look at what your competitors are doing. Go look at what you think the best job boards are doing and see how they build their internal links, see how they structure their pages. And you can always learn things, yeah.
Maybe our viewers can buy your job board ACO guide course and they will be able to learn all these things as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, for the people watching, like I do have a course. I put this all on the job board. I think it's JobBoardSEOguide.com, where I go and talk about this for a few hours. I think there's about 4 hours worth of course content that do a deep dive into basically everything I know around SEO for job boards.
So we will add the link into the episode description. So if anyone wants to go and look it out, the job board ACO guide, they can go and buy it from there.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that shout out.
My pleasure. So do you use any kind of automation to manage your ACO for the whole job board?
I'm a software engineer, so my job board website is all coded myself. I do use a bit of ChatGPT to help me build my pages, and also the content on the pages and that sort of stuff. But in terms of like other tools, I mean, I use like Ahrefs sometimes to look up keywords. I wouldn't say it's necessarily critical, and yeah, I just use the Google Search Console as well. That's probably the biggest tool I use.
For all of our viewers, this whole section was a pure gold mine on how to use Google Search Console, how to create different landing pages based on the search intent. Now, jumping on to the next section of competitor research. So, can you share a couple of tips on how to do a competitor research and what tools you are using to do that?
Oh, yeah, sure. There are no tools here. It's just me clicking on websites, but depends for what you want to research. So either the landing page or the job pages. For the job pages, I mean, what you do, go into Google, type in whatever jobs you have in your website, whatever people would look for if they want to find your site. So in my case, let's say remote data analyst jobs. And then what I will do is, in the Google Jobs widgets, I will see who's showing up there. I mean, obviously like LinkedIn is there and Indeed is there. But like which other job boards are showing up there. And then literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to find, 10 to 20 of these job boards. I'm going to click on them and then I'm going to study their pages and see what everybody is doing. Like what internal links do they have? What job opening information do they have? What company information do they have? What else are they showing here? Is there anything that can give me ideas here? And then basically I write down a list of what I think, the best job opening page would look like based on like what I see everyone else is doing and what I think is good. And that's how I build the job opening pages. For the landing pages, it's pretty much the same thing. You type in your query into Google, find 10 to 20 competitors, click on their landing pages, see what information they're showing. I mean, if you go look at, let's say, my landing page, right? I will have there, like a nice header, like remote data analyst jobs. I will have like a list of jobs. And then below that, I even have things like salary expectations for that jobs, like how much do remote data analyst jobs take to, how much do they earn? I also include information like how long on average a data analyst job stays open. I include information on how you get a data analyst jobs. And this is just like me having looked around to see what everyone else is doing and thinking, oh, that's really helpful information. I should put that on my website. And so this is useful for somebody who's looking for a job. So, it is helpful for the user, but it's also helpful for Google because now I have a lot more of that keyword on my landing page. Google knows that this page is highly related to what somebody's looking for.
In your past experience, what experiment did you run to optimize these landing pages or the job board, like job posting pages? And what are the conclusions of those experiments?
I don't think I'm very good at running experiments when it comes to SEO because I think SEO is one of those things where you don't see your changes immediately, right? It can be like 3 to 6 months before a change you've made is actually having an impact. And even then, it's usually hard to like attribute it to like a specific change you've made. So I don't really experiment in that sense. And also 3 to 6 months after I've made a change, I've completely forgot about it. So I would say it's more just like, vibe based, where, I think a change is going to be good and then I do it. And I so far haven't had an experience where I made a change and I could see like the traffic drop.
Is there anything specific you want to add or like on ACO now, or shall I jump on to the next section of reflecting on your journey?
No, I think that's quite a lot of stuff, I think that's like the basics.
Understood. Okay. So, Lior, you have given us your whole playbook on how to optimize job board for ACO. Now, can you tell us about some of the metrics, like how much every month you are investing in the ACO to reach at this 500K monthly traffic?
Yeah, how much I'm investing. So, I mean, besides, I do have an agency that's helping me build backlinks, and I pay them about $3,000 a month. But that said, I'm actually stopping with them. I don't think, in my experience with agencies, that they don't really tend to build like high quality links. I don't like the sort of links that they build, so I'm not doing that in general. I don't recommend that. But if you find somebody good, and it works, go for it. And by all means, do let me know. I'm happy to try it. But in terms of, so that's like in terms of pure money, how much I spend on it. But in terms of effort, I would say like 80% of, my work that I do on Remote Rocketship is ultimately to helps SEO. And so it's a huge chunk of my time.
Let's move on to the last section of the podcast. You have bootstrapped Remote Rocketship. What was the toughest challenge in your journey?
The toughest challenge. I mean, I think in my case, it was actually finding a business model that works. Most job boards, they will charge companies to pay to post their jobs, which by all means is great. I tried that. And I think after like 3 months, I had like somebody, like an acquaintance of mine, buy one job posting. And so this wasn't a feasible model for me. But eventually what I realized was I should put up a paywall on the site because, really the value add that I'm providing is I'm collecting all these jobs, and so the job seekers get the most value. So I put up a paywall, and basically if you want to search all the jobs on the site, you have to pay like a small subscription fee. This, was quite controversial. I did run it as an A/B test. I didn't want to scare away all the traffic. But after a month, I think I had like, I remember exactly what it was. So I was scared that I would scare away all my traffic. So I ran it as an A/B test, but only to 10% of people. And after 2 weeks, I had 10 customers, each paying $10 a month. So I knew that if I roll it out to everyone, I could make $1,000 a month. And so I did, and it grew. And then that to me was enough money. Like, okay, this can work as a business model. I can make this work. And that's where I put all my focus on. But I would say for the first 6 months of the business, I had no idea how I was going to make money. I thought it would be easy to get companies to like sponsor listings or, collaborate with them, but that proved very hard for me.
So, what is the one ACO myth you would like to burst of all of our viewers?
The one SEO myth. I think it's that like SEO needs to be complicated. It really doesn't. Like I said, there was one tweet from Fool that made me realize, oh, I could do this. And so I think for most people, I would say like, yeah, SEO, like you can do it as well. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be programmatic. You don't have to create like thousands of pages. Even creating just like tens of pages is like fantastic, and you'll get somewhere there. So really, SEO is for everyone.
Let's wrap up this. Is there any final advice you want to give to all the job board founders?
No, I would say just get started. That's all I would say. Just get started.
So thank you, Lior. Thank you for being here. To all of our viewers, we have 20% discount code from Lior for his job board ACO guide. Do check out the promo code in our descriptions. And thank you, Lior, for giving us your time and helping us learn more about ACO for job board.
Thanks so much. I had fun. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.